Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. We ran out of miracles, Soto. We ran out of miracles. After an amazing 4-game win streak that came down to the wire in every single game, after multiple comeback victories this season, after going 4-0 in overtime this season, after everything that was accomplished, after everything that was overcome, we ran out of miracles. And we were in place, like we were on deck for another miracle, right? Down by a touchdown in the last drive, drove all the way the length of the field, came down to the final pass play, interception. Raiders fall to the Bengals 26-19, and the longest playoff drought in the NFL is now over, and the Raiders continue their playoff winning drought here 20 years since the last time I had a playoff win.
Yeah, you could say we were out of miracles. Some might say that the makeup was finally wiped off and our warts showed. The things that we did poorly, and despite those poor things, we still won games close.
We saw the chick the next morning in decent lighting.
Yeah, the turnovers, the muffed punts, the issues on special teams, poor play offensively, just things like that, and we were still able to pull out games at the end when we're playing good teams that have dynamic players and have good players on both sides of the ball and are well coached. It's going to be very difficult, and you just can't do it over and over again, like we talked about earlier this year about the fumbles. After a while, it's just going to start evening itself out.
When they what did you do the second, like right when Carr threw that last pick and the game was over and the season was over? I went straight up through. I had my hat on, an earbud in, and my phone, and I went like this. I took it all off and I threw it on the floor, and I did the like hands and face. What was your move? I went everything off, hands and face.
I took a deep breath, like a big sigh, took my glasses off, rubbed my eyes, and put my glasses back on. That was it. Like
the disappointed dad, the little rub of
it's like you tell your kid, look, man, start your project early. Knock it out in chunks. Write it the first time and then rewrite it. Make sure you have it the way you want it when you turn it in. Don't just turn in what you have. Turn in what you want. And your kid comes in and says, I got a D because, you got away from me, whatever. And you're just like, all the things that we're seeing happen. It's like, I know how this is going to turn out, but he has to learn, right? I know how it's going to turn out, but he has to learn. And that's what I was saying to myself when I was watching this game, when we weren't taking advantage of of our opportunities and we were moving the ball but not scoring, and penalties and turnovers, and I'm like, you know what? This is not the type of team that's like, we held them to 6 points in the second half, but we scored 6 points in the second half. So I mean, I kind of saw it coming. It's tough.
Well, what was disappointing was you put it perfectly in the text when we went into the half down a touchdown. We're like, we did everything wrong. Every unit on our team, quarterback, running back, receiver, O-line, D-line, DBs, special teams, every unit had a major brain fart. And we were still within 7 points. So that we were like, okay, we can win. Like we're losing. We've been playing behind the whole game. Well, other than like the opening drive, we got a field goal. They scored a touchdown, kept the lead the entire game. Like even then, it's like, all right, like we're shooting ourselves in the foot more than they're beating us, which was most frustrating. We had 3 holding penalties on one drive on just our O-line.
Yeah, and it took away 2 first downs. It took away a running play down to the 2-yard line, a first and goal at the 2. That was negated by a holding penalty, and that would have turned the game around. Our offense just didn't wake up. It never woke up. We were that whole thing again that I have an issue with. It's not about how many yards you get. It's about the points you score, because that's how you win games, is by scoring points, not by gaining yards. And we were gaining yards, we just weren't scoring points. We weren't finishing drives off. We were kicking a lot of field goals, and yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough. There's no sense of getting upset over it now. I mean, this team, the way we know it, is dead. It's going to be a new team. There's going to be a lot of pieces that are the same, but all the 1-year guys that we have on this team, all the rookies, a lot of the free agents. So it's going to be, a lot of the people are going to be the same, but a bulk of the team's going to look different. Maybe the coaching staff, who knows? We'll get to all that.
Yeah, we got all off season to talk about the changes. And it's a weird, like morbidly fun team to watch this off season just because there's a million question marks, right? And just kind of see where everything goes because it's a playoff team, right? Like it's a playoff team. It's one of the best Raider teams in a long time. So it's like, okay, what do we dissect? What do we keep? We'll have all season to do that. But we did get another legendary ref fucking the Raiders in the playoffs moment, right? We've got, the immaculate reception and all the other things that have fucked us in the past. And we got another one when the refs
tuck rule.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on. When the refs blew the whistle with the ball in the air, Burrow throws a touchdown, and every referee and everyone who knows football is like, that should be a dead ball redo play. The ref inadvertently blew his whistle when the play was still live. The rules say you do that play over, and they didn't. They got a touchdown. Cost us at least 4 points. They probably would have kicked a field goal there. I mean, who knows how we can play the what if game forever, but that was
third down too.
That was third down. Like that cost 4 points. It changed how our offense worked. Like we would have, if that would have went correctly, they kicked a field goal. We would have kicked a field goal on that last play of the game. We would have went into overtime when we're 4-0. And again, there's that one play, like the Raiders shot themselves in the foot. We're not going to say that one play cost us the game, but it was one of multiple things that cost us what turned out to be a down to the wire game at the very end.
Yeah, and the audacity of the ref to be like laughing about it and shit while he was talking to the back judge. It's like, are you serious? Like you're fucking laughing at this, and then you're gonna call it a touchdown, and you could and then the head of the referees is like, oh yeah, the whistle was blown after the play was already dead. We're like, no, it wasn't. We have proof that it wasn't.
Like, oh, how convenient. You made a ruling that made you look like you didn't make a mistake. Oh, must be nice. I would love to win arguments with my wife the way refs win arguments against the Raiders. Just be like, hey, RJ, you didn't unload the dishwasher. It's like, yeah, I did. Like, no, I'm looking at the dishwasher. It's full of dishes. Look, there's plates and bowls and silverware. Like, no, I unloaded it. You're wrong. Moving on. Next play.
Ruling is, I did that.
Vicky would stab me in my sleep if I treated her the way referees treat the Raiders in the playoffs. This show would be a solo show. It would be just the Mr. Wonderful show, not the Autumn Windbags, because I would be dead. And she watches a lot of those murder porn shows. So like she knows how to like bury a body, not leave fingerprints, what to say to the cops. That's why I don't have life insurance, because she's way too educated on how to murder your husband.
I should take a policy out on you.
She probably would. She'd probably get me hammered and like have me sign it unbeknownst to me, or just forge my signature. Anyway, that's why we don't husband and wife the way they referee in the NFL, because we'd be fucked. Jordan Burrow, the wrestler, Joe Burrow. Good game, not a crazy Joe Burrow game. 24 of 34, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. We only sacked him twice. And I think this was a great example of how exposed our defense is when our pass rush isn't rolling. Like our pass rush lagged. We got two sacks, some pressures here and there, but with how bad Bengals O-line is and how good our pass rush is, I thought, okay, that's the X factor. Joe Burrow's not going to have time. He wants to do 5, 7-step drops, throw deep. And instead, they threw mostly intermediate. 3-step, 5-step drops, intermediate pass, which gave them time against the pass rush. And also our pass rush wasn't there. So you talk about like our warts being exposed. I feel like that was one of the really big ones, was when our pass rush isn't getting there, our coverage is rough. It's waning, especially against and in all fairness, Joe Burrow's insane. Their trio of receivers are nuts. Like it was a tough matchup, and you add not getting a pass rush, and we're really in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most sacked quarterback in the league, and we're one of the highest pressure teams pressuring the core. We are the team that puts the most quarterback pressures, and we couldn't get home. It's just a recipe for disaster, and it didn't help that fucking dumbass Peyton Barber steps out of bounds and like at the 2-yard line. They get the ball at like the 45.
That was a for sure. Soto, take the glasses off.
Well, there's that, and then the freak. Okay, look, can we talk about Carr's fumble really quick?
To my point, like how good they were at chipping Crosby. Like they'd have like a tight end chip or like a tackle and then a running back chip. On that sack fumble, they had Foster Moreau on their best edge rusher solo. Fucking
Terrible.
strip sack.
Everything all around was bad. Foster Moreau actually did okay pass defense. He gave Carr some time. It was a bad scheme. Foster Moreau did okay, but he did get beat cleanly. And on Carr's end, he was able to take his drop and hitch twice and then try to throw the ball. If you're on the line and you see that's the blocking matchup, you have to get rid of that ball. You can't hold on to that ball for 2 hitches after your drop back. And it's everybody.
I put most blame on scheme, but also Foster and Carr. Like
I'll go scheme Carr Foster because what the fuck Foster doesn't do that. He's like one of the best pass rusher on the opposing team. He was able to do his drop back. That's as much as you can ask from a freaking tight end. But I was talking to a cousin of mine who actually played quarterback, and he was quarterback coach, and he was telling me the same thing. He's like, dude, you're the guy that's in control at the line of scrimmage, and you see that's the matchup because the Bengals like to put 5 guys on the line of scrimmage sometimes and enforce that matchup. Okay, that's the matchup. I can't hold on to this ball. I have to let go of the balls quick. And if he hangs on to it, there's nobody else to look at but himself. And he went through his drop back, and there's little things like that here and there where if you're not paying attention to it and you're like, oh well, what are you gonna do? He got hit from behind. He got strip sack. Well, yeah, but I already went through it. And then that gave them a short field. So I mean, it didn't look like they had a lot of yards in the game, but it's because they didn't have to gain as many yards as us because they had a couple of short fields. We weren't really stopping them that much.
So the other part too, like I'm talking about how the when the pass rush isn't getting there, we're in trouble. It didn't really hit me. Like if you would have asked me this question before over the course of the last few games when our DBs were set up, and you asked me like one by one what it is, I would have given you the answer. It didn't really hit me as hard as it did until this morning when I was like, fuck, these are some really good receivers the Bengals have. What do we look at? And then I looked and it didn't hit me like how bad on paper our DB personnel are because they've been playing decent. They've been playing pretty well because the pass rush has been there. Like you look at our starting DBs, Casey Hayward, released from the Chargers, picked up for $1.5 million. He did have a good season. Trevon Morg, 2nd-round rookie. Roderick Teamer, undrafted player making $780,000. Nate Hobbs, 5th-round rookie. Like those are your starters against Jamar Chase and company.
Desmond Trufant, he got him off the scrap heap in the middle of the year.
You look at like the rotational DBs. Trufant, this is his 5th team. He's 31 years old. He's getting $1 million. Dalen Levitt, on and off the practice squad, making $850K. Brandon Faison, undrafted, on and off the practice squad, $920K. And we're like, oh man, I can't believe Joe Burrow's been able to pass. Like, what do we expect? You got all-star, like they're oozing. They have like basically 3 number 1 receivers, a future star in Joe Burrow, and we've got fucking like leftover like scrap heap guys playing DB with no pass rush. Like I'm amazed Joe Burrow only had 244 yards. I'm amazed.
And with all that, it wasn't the defense's fault that we lost. It was our offense's fault. You can't win scoring 19 points. Not against the Pat team.
Omar, look, it was a wild ride. DC had us in position. Next season, we can't fold like 2017. The O-line needs to be amped. a top wide receiver and corner safety in agency. Yeah, I mean, I think that the losing Henry Ruggs, obviously, we've heard this story 1,000 times, what that did to the offense. He needs to be replaced. We need a speedster. Deshaun Jackson's not the guy at all.
No,
Case of
no,
the drops,
he never was.
Every time he catches the ball, you see him like looking for a patch of dirt to run down to or out of bounds to get out. He's not going to fight for balls. He's one exact, very specific thing. Fast enough, I'm wide open, I'll catch it. That's it. Like, that's literally all that he is.
If you're lucky, because he's dropped a touchdown pass too.
And he's dropped, yeah, right. He had a first down, he dropped today. Bad case of the dropsies today. Waller had a drop.
Bro, look, man, they weren't ready to play, man. They weren't ready to play today. They did not match the intensity that Cincinnati came with. They looked like they were shook from the crowd shook them, and they did not seem like they were ready to play.
They just looked like they woke up from a nap. I don't know if it shook. It was just like dreary. It was just kind of blah.
That's what shook looks like in football, man.
They weren't playing like tight. You know what I mean? They were just playing just like they rolled out of bed and said like, all right.
The intensity wasn't there. The intensity wasn't there.
Yeah, no intensity, no focus. Especially like the fucking O line, man. Like the pass protection was actually good. Like when we weren't holding on those rare ones, like there was multiple pass plays where Carr had 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds, and those kept some drives alive. Like Carr like sat in that pocket for some long drives sometimes, and eventually someone's gonna get open, right? You give anybody that much time, and someone's gonna get open.
Dude, Carr did like this. Hey, go this way. Zone Jones, go this way. he did that. Like, right? Hey, go this way. And then he
opens a bottle of water mid-play, takes a drink,
like,
starts pointing.
Dude, they were holding more on the running plays, which is like maddening. It's
WXVE sucks. Zzz. Wavy. Can we talk about how we lost the game and not how the Bengals played? Way too many mistakes in red zone. Oh, killed.
That's what I've been saying, brother.
Love the show.
That's what I've been saying.
It's been
our offense lost us the game.
It's the worst red zone. It's been the worst red zone offense in football all season, and it did not.
Our offense lost us the game.
It did not.
Our defense,
special teams hurt us. Turnovers were big. Offense could only score 19 points. It was a combination of a lot of things, and the offensive line I think was the most disappointing thing for us. Just so many penalties. So many penalties. And it was different guys, too. It was literally, I think every O lineman had a penalty.
You know what? I don't think what do you call it? Brandon fucking Parker had a penalty. I think it was just everybody else. I think the middle
Simpson
the middle
for
three
sure.
Guys.
Andre
Simpson,
for sure.
James, and Leatherwood for had a couple.
Leatherwood had a couple. That interior was actually
Leatherwood is so bad at those stunts, at those twists, those defensive line twists. Yeah. He's so bad at it. And I talked about this earlier this year, how when you have an inexperienced offensive lineman and that doesn't keep their head up, that keeps their eyes focused on their blocker, they think they're winning when they're shoving them into the line. But the line that defensive tackle is doing that on purpose so the other guy can loop around. And when at both times, I believe it was Andre James passes him the defensive tackle and goes to take the tackle that Leatherwood was blocking, and Leatherwood's still there. And it's like, dude.
My freshman football coach had a great line on our defensive lineman one time. He was like, because they were in the defensive lineman and the scout team was running a screen, and they all just like ran to the quarterback, right? Didn't read the screen, right? The screen just fooled them all. He's like, he pulled them to the side. He's like, guys, you got to understand. You suck. You suck. If you're all getting to the quarterback free, something's wrong. They want you to do that. So when that happens, you need to look and say like, oh, what's going on? Let me readjust. That needs to be Leatherwood. When Leatherwood's like, oh, wow, I'm totally blocking this guy. This is no problem. You got to be like, you suck, Leatherwood.
It's not there.
Something's happening, man. They're fooling you. So like if you're winning that drastically, something's up. Make an adjustment.
Look, and he has improved over the last few weeks, but the thing is, you have to realize something. A person's going to be who they're going to be, right? Like if you're an alcoholic and that's who you are at your heart and you're like deep into it, you may not drink for a couple days, but you're going to go back to it.
And I feel like you're targeting me specifically. I feel personally attacked with this, Soto.
Well, I'm trying to talk to you about something. I think on the air, when you're surrounded by friends and people who care about you, we should talk about it.
You're like, RJ, this isn't actually a post-game show. This is an intervention. Surprise.
I intervention. No, he's going to be who he's going to be, man. If we could talk about how his play improved over the last few weeks, and it has, but there's still a lot of things in pass protection that give him trouble, and it's all mental. It's all mental with this kid. He has the physical tools all over the place, but I mean, if you can't get coached up by Nick Saban and his crew, and you come in here making those type of silly mistakes, and those are silly mistakes, the mistakes he's making, it's tough, man. I'm very disappointed, man. I am extremely disappointed that our offense played this poorly. I really am. I mean, 4 field goals and a touchdown. That's just not going to get it done.
Derek Carr, 29 of 54, way too many attempts in a game like this. 310 yards, touchdown, interception, very last play. He got sacked 3 times for a loss of 28 yards. He willed his way through some things. He made obviously his share of Derek Carr errors. We got a taste of, Derek Carr with the Superman cape on in the end of the first half, almost at the end of the game, right? Drove the field till the last play. It was a better Derek Carr. Like, he was less game manager because we were down by 10 essentially most of the game. And I think the problem was because we were down 10, Jacobs had his best game of the season. Even though he didn't have the most yards, he only had 13 carries, but he had 83 yards. He broke the longest run of his career in the game today, I believe.
35 yards.
And so we're like, awesome. Like, we've been building up to this, right? Jacobs has been gaining momentum the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. But because we're down by 10, it's that really gray area, right? If you're down like 2 touchdowns, you're like, okay, we got to just sling the rock every time. If you're down a touchdown, you're like, okay, we can still just run our offense. We're just down 1 touchdown, just run your perfect offense. 10 is that weird middle ground. It's like, do we get a little bit more pass happy? Do we stick to our guns? And because we were playing from just enough behind, we started abandoning the run a little bit more than we should have, and we wasted the best momentum of Josh Jacobs' game.
Yeah, I mean, the 310 yards is great, but on 54 attempts, that's pretty bad. That's 5.7 yards an attempt. That's really bad. So he got the yards, but because he was throwing the ball a lot. It's just the offense wasn't good, man.
Omar,
I mean, yeah,
we could have played we could have been the Patriots. So I was actually working today at the UFC, and I had just watching on my phone in between studio shows, working, right? And I was like kind of watching on my phone wherever TVs were around, and so I didn't watch Pat's Bills at all. I went to work and did that. Came back to the hotel that I'm in now, and I see the score of the game, and I was like, Jesus. They went 1-1 against each other, Pats and Bills. That's why the whole conversation of like, well, we definitely don't want to play KC again. I was like, no. But there's been wild swings in playoff games, right? Like, this happens all the time where a team gets beat twice in the regular season, beat them in the playoffs. It's like, it's just such a different animal. And we saw it today, just coming out super flat, like we rolled out of bed, hung over, and the Bengals came to play. Bills came to play, Pats didn't.
The Bengals didn't play great, but they didn't play bad. They didn't make mistakes.
They didn't shoot themselves in the foot like we did.
Yeah, they're the least penalized team in the league. I think they were called for like 2 penalties. I think
no, they had a lot. They had a lot of penalties. They had as many as us. They had 7 penalties for 56 yards. We had 7 penalties,
and they're not a heavily penalized team.
They're not. What it was, the yardage is because of those PIs. It was those big PIs why they got all that yardage. Most of them were like 5-yarders, and then again, like that's one of Carr's like weird like skills is like getting people pass interference penalties. Like he sees the backs of the DB's jersey, and he's like, I'm just going to throw it there and see if they grab him. But it's also a credit to Hunter Renfro's route running, Darren Waller's not being very coverable as they just start getting grabby.
It's just it's a shame, man. It's a shame that the Bengals played the game that we wanted them to play. They showed up ready to play, but we gave them 2 short fields and they turned them into points. We didn't convert touchdowns when we should have, and the refs gave them 4 extra points.
That ref call, man. I mean, that's gonna live in infamy. That's gonna be. It's like right up there with the tuck. Not obviously the stakes weren't as high this one with like the tuck rule, but it's just like, is there a team with more ref fuckery in the playoffs? Like legendary, like plays that have names, games that have names based on the penalty or not, or excuse me, the non-call. Tuck rule game, immaculate reception game. What is this one? The phantom whistle game? Like it's gonna be
the phantom whistle.
The phantom whistle game. The inadvertent whistle that cost us 4 points. I mean, think about it. Like we would have kicked a field goal in field goal range on that last play. We'd be in overtime where we were 4-0. And it's weird. Like you want to, it's just one of 10 things that cost us the game, right? It was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, fucking dumbass
Barber with the biggest brain fart ever, stepping out of bounds on the return.
Like, well, why are you touching it? You step out of bounds first, and then you touch the ball. Step out of bounds first, then touch the ball. Like, or just let the ball go out of bounds.
Let the ball go. It's either going to go out of bounds or in the end zone. It's either going on the 25 or 40-yard line. And instead, you put it on the 2. It's like brain fart like that. It was brain farts like that. That's a fucking
brain fart play. Brain farts like that. I mean, I don't know how much. I don't want to argue this, but I mean, the Carr's play on his strip sack was a brain fart. He knew he couldn't hold the ball that long, and those are just like turnovers, man.
I know you want.
It's not about. I'm not trying to put the blame on Carr. It's a bad play by a quarterback. It's a bad play by a quarterback who has mastered this system.
It's more bad scheming and a poor block. And then him on the back end wasn't able to bail out those 2 things.
Look, first off, it wasn't a poor block. You're a tight end on the best pass rusher on the opposing team. Let's just get that out there right now. He was able to go through his drop. If he would have got through his drop and when his back foot hit, the ball came out, no problems. But he took 2 hitches and then tried to throw the ball. And because of that, that's why he fumbled. He knew he didn't have that kind of time. He knew he didn't. This is the type of stuff, RJ, that really freaking pisses me off because you're willing to give Carr blame for stuff if it's a stat that you can look at. He fumbles this many times, that's something that you can point to like, that's bad. But things like this that you can be like, oh, well, you can explain away. You explain it away like it's not his fault. This was his fault. He knew he didn't have the time.
This is even a worse problem is that you put all the blame on Carr and it bails everyone out. It wasn't a good block.
I'm not bailing him out.
It resulted in a strip sack and it wasn't a good play call because you put a tight end on the best pass rusher.
Okay.
Right? Yes or no?
The scheme was bad. Yes. But did Carr know who was blocking who?
Maybe they were running a stunt. I mean, it's basically right. More or
there was
less.
No stunt. There was no stunt. He
didn't know that. He didn't know that. That's my point. Is like maybe something like that happened. More or less, yes.
Let's move on.
More or less, yes.
Let's move on. No. It wasn't more or less, yes. He knew because he's a master of the offense. Your words. He knew who was blocking who. He knew how much time he had. His back foot hit, and he didn't throw the ball. He's got to throw the ball.
And this is my point, is Olsen made a bad scheme. Moreau made a bad block. And because Carr couldn't cover for them, you put all the blame on Carr. That's my point.
It's not about look, it wasn't a bad. You keep calling this a bad block. If he's going through his drop and his back foot hasn't even hit yet on his drop and he gets hit, that's a bad block. He was able to go through his. By the time his back foot hits, that ball's got to come out. And if you're the quarterback, I got to get this ball out quick. I can't hitch with
It was
with
less than
with
it
their
was less
best.
than 2 seconds. It was like 1.7, 1.8
It
seconds.
doesn't matter
That's a
how
bad
long
block.
it is, RJ. It's
It
it's
does
about
matter.
the
It
play.
doesn't
It's
matter how
about the
long a
play.
block is. It doesn't matter
Oh
how
my
long a
God,
block
RJ.
is. It doesn't
When
matter. It
you
doesn't
look at
matter how
this,
long a block is.
when you look at this situation, RJ, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter how long a block is. Okay, now I'm ready to move on.
No. When you look at this situation, he was able to go through his drop and he didn't throw the ball. He held on to it too long. Bottom line, that's what happened. Would I would prefer him, Moreau, to hold the block longer? Of course. But he was able to go through his drop. His back foot hit, and he hits twice, and then he gets hit. You have to let go of that ball. You know who's coming. You know you don't have that kind of time.
You could be in the Olympics for mental gymnastics for whether you morph everything into a car error. It's
and I'll
really
say the same thing for you by
impressive.
not trying to give him anything that's not a true 100% written down in pen stat. That's not his. You can explain away everything how it's not his fault.
15 first downs. We had more first downs. We moved the ball better. But again, red zone being the major issue. That's definitely something that's going to be worked on. I can't get over how good our pass protection generally was versus how bad our penalties were on the O-line. It's nuts to me how it can be so night and day.
Yeah.
Same O-line, and it was either like that play, the strip sack, or a couple other sacks that, and there were a couple plays where Carr had to get flushed out of the pockets, but there were multiple 6, 7, 8 pass plays where Carr had 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds, and we made him pay. And then until the penalties come.
So there's this guy, right? My dad, rest in peace. He used to own a mechanic shop, and he had this Korean dude named Sun working for him. Sun was a cool guy. He was kind of dirty, He used to like draw like on my. I had like a Daffy Duck like coloring book, and he would draw like Daffy Duck taking a shit or something like. He was
How old were you?
Anyway, I was probably like 8, 7, maybe.
Okay, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
If you're like 15, dude. If you're like 15,
what the hell am I doing with a Daffy Duck coloring book at 15? Okay. Yeah, right. No, but he told me once, and it's always stuck with me. He said a clumsy person doesn't always stub the same toe. So a bad offensive line is not going to do it the same way twice. It's not going to do it the same way every single time. If they're a bad offensive line, they're going to find ways to be bad. And they found a different way to be bad today. And holding on the run instead of holding on the pass.
It's their X-Men power.
Yeah, right?
Ways to fuck up.
Jesus.
In good news, we held Joe Mixon down pretty well. He had 17 carries, only 48 yards.
Our defense did fine. Our defense was good. It wasn't the defense's fault. Offense fucked us over.
Well, our pass rush exposed our DBs, which is why, Burrow got to be super efficient, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 116 yards. Usma touchdown. Boyd touchdown. What saved us, honestly, was our long drives on offense that ended up in field goals instead of touchdowns. But that's what saved us.
Yeah, man.
Was time of possession.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about in the pregame shows. We have to grind the ball, make our drives count, which we didn't do. We didn't make them count by getting touchdowns. We just kept on getting field goals. For us giving this offense as high powered as Joe Burrow came off the second best yardage for 2 games in a row ever. He had almost 1,000 yards. He had 7 or 8 touchdowns and no interceptions his last 2 games. This offense was clicking. For us to give them the ball at the 18 and then give them the ball at our 45 and still only give up 26 points, our defense did a good job today.
They delivered in the run. The run defense coming out of them. That's one of the feel good parts of this underrated feel good parts of the season is how our run defense came together. randomly, like out of nowhere, got like decent, I think the big part, like the scheme of Gus Bradley's defense, right? Take away the really deep plays. The flip side of that, right? Play, gang tackle, play deep, don't give up big plays, which is a scheme you can win with, right? It's definitely one of the successful schemes. The downside of that is you don't get a lot of turnovers, right? You don't blitz and get, a really good strip sack. You're not aggressive on like slants and outs to get interceptions. We just did not. We were the last in the league in interceptions. Just didn't get turnovers. I don't know how. That's a big part of it too. That's the other reason why, right? Like we put together these really long drives, couldn't get in the end zone. The Bengals put together little short drives because that's all they had to do. If we could get these, a 40-yard drive, and all we needed was that for a touchdown, could change our offense. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's one side has to help the other. And when the offense is sputtering, not getting there, it's like, man, can we get it, a turnover, or block punt? Fuck, I don't know. One side trying to help the other side. And it's just like the defense is a cohesive unit that does one thing. And they do it pretty well, right? Like we're going to hold them to this number of points, no more, no less. And it's like you have to build around that, right? And when special teams fucks up like Barber did, when the offense can't get rolling the way that it did, it's like the defense doesn't adjust to that. It's just like, this is who we are. And it's been better than it's been in a long time, right? So it's like, it's hard to complain about it, but it's just like, man, the defense never had like a crazy good day this season. It was just kind of, this is us.
And just like the end of This Is Us, we're all crying. Our games are like I was talking about it earlier before we started. Our games are like those choose your own adventure books. Like, if you make a decision on page 5, it's going to take you to page 22, and you already know what those 2 decisions on page 22 are. You already know. It's like we already know what our defense is going to do. We already know who they are. We know that they tighten the screws as they get as they get their backs closer to the goal line, right? We have to be able to adjust, and we just didn't do it. We didn't have those big bulk plays. We made their lackluster secondary look good. We weren't able to give. We weren't able to allow our offense to run the ball consistently because of the penalties. We're always backed up in long yardage, and it's just a shame, man. It's the same thing over and over again. Penalties, poor play, poor execution, poor scheming, just overall, just poor play, man. And we were able, like the first thing I said coming on here, the warts finally showed through. We were able to do smoke and mirrors for a while. We won our last 4 games by 12 points. Quick math, that's a field goal, last second field goal, each of the last 4 games.
You can't kill this team, man. Cockroaches, Twinkies, and the Raiders. Like they just like find even today, as bad as we played, down to the very last play to send us to overtime, right? It's just like as bad as the errors that this team made today and has made throughout the season, their resilience is something kind of special. Like just like to be able to like persevere through all of their like they're a less talented team at almost every position in almost all the games. And still they won 10 and was 1 pass away from advancing in the playoffs. Like, I don't know if it's team unity. I doubt it's coaching. Maybe it's something that you can't put a finger on. It's not a personnel. It's not a player. I don't know. We don't feel it now, obviously, because we're coming off a loss, but there was something special in the water in Vegas to get this far after everything that happened. So it's a really mixed. I have such a mix of emotions today between being pissed about how we played, sad that we lost, the enjoyment of like a good game down to the wire, everything we overcame. I'm gonna need a week or 2 to like digest what I really feel about this season.
The issue that I have is what we talked about in text is this team is not going to be the same. Like who's your core of the team that's going to be around next year? Like a lot of the guys that stepped up, like may not be around.
Offensively, I feel like
So
almost everyone stays, right? All the running backs are locked up contract wise. All the linemen, other than Parker,
yeah,
are
but do you
all.
really want to keep them? Like James and Colton Miller, yeah, but Zay Jones, does our season gonna, is he a core member of this team? Like,
Well, the receiving core needs to get an upgrade bad, like desperately. Like we don't have a number one wide receiver. Like we don't.
we don't have a. I mean, the way that Carr was able to turn Hunter Renfrow into a number one wide receiver, he's a number 3 like slot receiver. He's a good
on a good offense.
Yeah.
He's an amazing number 3 slot machine.
He'd be a 3, maybe a 4th target on the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And so defensively, that group's going to look way different. We have like no defensive tackles under contract next year.
Offense, I think, is going to look personnel wise the same, minus like hopefully a giant splash at wide receiver, hopefully upgrade at tackle. But tight end's not going anywhere. Running back's not going anywhere. The receivers we have, I doubt are going anywhere. They're going to keep Zay. Hopefully he shouldn't be a starter next year like he was this year, but they're going to keep him because he's cheap and he knows the system, been around forever. But you're right. The defense, it's just a bunch of one-year players, more or less, right? I mean, who's good on the defense that's for sure staying? Perryman's got a 2-year contract. He's back. Max will lock up. He's going to be rich. Ngakwe's got another year on his contract. Yeah, you're right. Like after that, how many of these guys do we re-sign?
So here's my issue.
Trevor Mark, obviously.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this, during the offseason. But I am 99% sure that Bisaccia is not going to be back. Okay. Now, let's just say if he doesn't come back, we're going to have a new offensive. I'm like 99% sure Olsen won't be back. And I'm about 50-50 that Bradley won't be back. So that leaves us one of the surprises on our team that helped us win the games that we did. Our defense is going to be a lot of new faces with the new scheme, new coach. Derek Carr has notoriously not done well his first year in new schemes, new systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that happened after 16. We brought a lot more people back in 17, but it was a new scheme, a new offensive coordinator, and we took a big step back. And that's a concern of mine, and that's something that we really. I think it's a legitimate concern because we've seen Carr at his best, and we squeaked into the playoffs by a fucking pussy whisker. And is that the ceiling? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we had this argument 100 times. Like, I'm down to replace Carr if you got someone better, right? Like, if we can get someone every single position on this squad, shouldn't it be safe? Not one position. It's just improving on it, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, at least this was a brand new defense in a lot of ways compared to last season, right? So Bradley's proven he can improve the defense with a whole bunch of new faces, which is good because we're probably going to get a lot. I mean, we may sign all these 1-year contracts and extend a lot of them. There's very few of them had like amazing years where they're going to get massive deals. Very few
but
of them.
But these guys aren't going to resign. If these guys are going to sign back with us, I don't know if it's going to be a 1-year deal again, man. They're going to want more than that. And it's going to be for more money. They're not going to sign for the same amount of money. And we have a lot of holes.
Because not a lot of guys had like crazy years, right? I mean, as good as like Phylon played great, but he got hurt, right? Our team's going to like break the bank for a guy coming off of a major injury. I don't think so. Maybe Casey Hayward played good, but he's going to be 32 next season. There was a reason no one signed him last year. Maybe but I don't know. But honestly, with the rest of the DBs, like they're all rookies, right? Hobbs isn't going anywhere. Morg isn't going anywhere. Mullen's not going anywhere, right? So our DBs are actually in pretty decent shape, right? I think DBs might be our strength next season.
Yeah, every year we got to draft at least 1 or 2 DBs. That's just the way the NFL
And
is, man.
Max and Yannick are back, right? So our ends, they're back. That's staying the same. D tackle and Perryman's back. Well, I don't honestly. Now that we're thinking about it, other than D tackle, it might be a pretty similar looking defense. Just 1 year better. Might be. I don't know. We'll see.
But the thing is a defense that's 1 year better in this scheme is pretty much the same defense.
No, you gotta expect all our young guys to be 1 year better. Morig and Hobbs
but better at what? At running up to make a tackle? We don't cause turnovers.
Yeah, just better in general. Better in coverage, better in tackles, better at sniffing out plays. I mean, better at hopefully I would hope better at getting turnovers. It's not going to be our strength. It's not the Bradley defense, but they should be 1 year better at every. Again, we asked a lot of rookies this season. I think that's been completely forgotten. Morig played almost every single snap. Hobbs played tons of snaps. Leatherwood, tons of snaps. Divine Diablo became a starter. We asked a lot of our rookies, and most of the time they didn't play like terrible rookies. Leatherwood did.
That's true.
But
dude, God damn it! What do you guys have to say about? We don't have a question now. I'm gonna freaking just take that over. What do you guys say about Leatherwood now? Do you think he should have been a first round pick? Looking at the other first round tackles that were taken and the second round tackles that were taken. Do you know why we were so pissed off that we took him in the first round?
When do you think the Leatherwood debate was squashed?
It's like you and I with the car debate.
No, it got squashed. No. It's clear, plain as day. There's not one person still defending Leatherwood. There's no way.
Carl Cochran is.
No. Is he?
Go look at his Twitter.
Okay, one guy. He's the only,
I love you, Carl. You know you're my boy, dude. You know you're my boy, but you still have Leatherwood's back.
The Leatherwood debate was over like week 5. The Leatherwood debate was over when they moved him to guard. Then you're like, okay,
yeah. So week 4.
That was another swing and a miss, which goes again to we'll wrap up kind of we'll have all off season to talk all the off season moves, but that goes back to all these discussions we're having could be nothing if we don't know who our GM is. You know what I mean? Is it going to be Mayock? Is it going to be somebody else? All these things that we're talking about, it's all even more hypotheticals until we know who our GM is. This is the thing I've been thinking about. I almost feel like whatever decision Mark Davis makes on GM is going to be right, because whether Mayock is a good GM or not depends solely on who is to blame or credit for our draft picks. And we don't know who that is. But I'm assuming, because Mark Davis has nothing else to do, that he knows if it was a Gruden or a Mayock pick, all the picks, right?
Once we heard that whole 51-49 thing, Gruden 51, Mayock 49, it was Gruden. We knew it was Gruden.
Yeah. Well, my thing is did Mayock say, "Hey, I want to get this guy in the second round," and John Gruden said, "Okay"? Gruden had the final say for sure, but was Gruden scouting out Hobbs, 6th and 7th rounders? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, but the problem is we don't need to outsmart these teams sometimes, especially in the first round.
This is something we've agreed on forever, right? That's kind of we're on the same page, right? That's a no-brainer. It's just a matter of who was responsible for the good draft picks and the bad draft picks, Mayock or Gruden. Who was the guy that pushed it? Obviously, Gruden signed off on all of them, and he, in the end of the day, is responsible for all of them. But was Mayock no, don't get Leatherwood in the first round, please don't? And Gruden's fuck you, I'm doing it. Or was Mayock saying, Gruden, let's get Leatherwood round 1, get him as soon as we can. He's gonna be off the board. He's gonna change our line. And Gruden's you sure? You sure, Mike? You really think so?
This is what happened. Nah, I like Leatherwood, man. Look at that name, Leatherwood. Right? Yeah, he's a big, tough guy.
And I'm getting Divine Diablo. I'm going by name.
Leatherwood, man. Leatherwood.
Even Nate Hobbs. The guy. That's a cool name. That's a football player right there.
I love Calvin and Hobbs. Nate Hobbs, same thing. Let's draft them.
So that's why I'm whatever Mark Davis decides to do, because I'm going to assume, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to assume Mark Davis knows which draft picks were who. And if he's Mayock, you're gone. It's okay, it was probably Mayock making those bad decisions. He's like, Mayock, you're staying. It's like, all right, it was probably Mayock making the good decisions.
Okay, question. What's
Answer.
the over-under on a head coach? What are the days? How many days until a head coach is hired? Because now it's in full swing now. All gloves are off.
Yeah. I think it comes down. I wonder, because Mark Davis falls in love with coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not detached from the process. He falls in love with dudes. And so I think it's a lot of like, can Mark get his guy as opposed to who's available? Instead of like being like an accountant with it, it's like, all right, who's available? What do they cost? What do I have to do? Who's my number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? All right, I can't get my 1 and 2. Let me try to get my 3. He's not like that. He's like, I love Harbaugh. Let me do everything I can to get him. And if I don't, I'll stick with Bisaccia or whatever, or get some, or you know what I mean, or whatever. Like he's such an emotionally attached to his coaches. It's hard for me as like a left brain guy to like put myself in Mark Davis's shoes for a coach.
And the thing is too, is Mayock knows this too. So if Mark Davis walks up to him and says, "Hey, could you work with Harbaugh?" He's going to say yes. Because if he says no, he's going to be like, "Happy trails to you."
This is all stuff, obviously.
2 weeks?
Again, it's like so hard to put myself in his shoes. If he gets the guy he wants tomorrow.
What's the over-under then? I'm telling you, we can go over-under. What do you think?
2 weeks is a good over-under.
I would say, okay, if you say 2 weeks, I'm thinking it's going to be right around 2 weeks, but maybe like a day or two over. Definitely under a month.
Well, it also depends, like, is he trying to go after like the KC offensive coordinator? Because you're basically I mean, you can sign him before, but you're basically waiting until their season's over, right?
Which is fine. They don't give a shit. What's that? But
that changes the over-under, right? That changes the 2 week line. And there's some good coaches out there, right? Like fucking Brian Flores is floating around, ready to rock, dude.
Brian Flores is going to get hired like in the next couple of days. He's going to get hired quick. I think tomorrow, both coordinators get the fuck out of here, Adam Gase. That bullshit. Don't even fucking joke about that shit.
Don't put that curse on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that curse
man. On me. Hell no. My freaking balls just all good into my stomach right now. Yeah, so both coordinators from the Bills have interviews tomorrow. I think the first wave of hirings are going to happen fairly quickly. Yeah.
Frank PSR1, we need stability. Keep the staff. O-line.
Ooh, Frankie boy. Appreciate the message, man, but I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Who in order of like primary staff, who from order of definitely keep to definitely get rid of? How are there guys on this coaching staff for like definitely keep? Marinelli?
Tom Cable, Marinelli, the lines. Because I think Tom Cable's a really good coach. And I think Marinelli's a really good defensive line coach.
I really want to keep Mayock. I really want to see him to be able to actually be a GM for a season and see what he's got. I really want him back. At least find out if he's good or not.
The issue, if we're going to stick with Derek Carr, I think we should keep Olsen. Mm-hmm. Because if not, it's going to be a mass regression on Carr's part.
And just imagine this offense when we can get a true number 1 wide receiver, like more continuity on O-line, improve O-line. Like this, like again, we're really emotional. We just feel like we just shot ourselves in the foot. This team sucks. Start over. We got 10 wins in the most drama-filled season in NFL history. Like it's hard to gauge how good this team is because of everything it went through.
But the thing is, you have to look at too is this team is done now. Next team's going to look drastically different.
But that's the thing. Is it like I thought the defense would be completely different. It's
okay. Mark it down. 9:25 on the January 15th. Mark it down. Mm-hmm. I think this team's going to look drastically different next year.
I hope there are drastic changes in certain places for sure. O-line improvement. Number 1. I think we need 2 star receivers.
Can we do something? Can find something to do with Littleton and Kwiatkowski? Just God damn,
the math on Littleton keeps fucking with me. I thought he was a $15 million hit, but I think after a June 1, maybe he's only like a $5 million.
which is fine with me. Get
Well,
the fuck out of here.
Gone. 15. Bite the bullet. Let him play special teams. Depth. $5 million. C'est la vie, Corey.
Ah, damn, that guy's bad.
Go back to LA.
Dude, freaking Divine Diablo looks like a steal. Hobbs looks like a steal. But the thing is you can't like build an entire roster around steals like that. You need to have those studs, those horses that those top end guys.
I think Hobbs will be. I think Hobbs will be a top end.
No, but the thing is the good teams hit on their first round guys more often than not, and then their late round guys are kind of the hit or miss guys. When you hit or miss on a late round guy, their ceiling isn't as high as the guys on the first round.
It's not true. Max Crosby's ceiling is as high as anybody. I think Nate Hobbs' ceiling is real high. What he did as a rookie.
We can't be as poor.
Well, look, don't think for a second I'm defending our terrible drafting. don't think that.
No, we can't be as poor as first
at all.
I mean, when you hit and miss, you have to hit too. And what did we hit on in the first round?
Well, the other part is too. I think you're overestimating other teams and how often they hit on first round. Literally half of the NFL are undrafted players. Like every team whiffs. We whiff more.
Yeah, because most of the teams don't start. Most of the team doesn't start. You have 22 starters and 53 players.
What do you mean doesn't start?
They're not starters.
Yeah.
You have 22 starters on a team and 53 players.
My point being is if you go through the first round draft picks of the last few seasons, you'll be like, okay, whiff. Like there's a lot of whiffs, right? Again, not defending the Raiders because we whiffed almost 3 times in one with 3 first rounders. I'm just saying like we're not going to bat 1,000 on first rounders. Nobody does. We're not going to bat.
I never said that. I never said that. Okay, can we at least bat 500?
That's average. Yeah. Can we get to average? I hope so.
Because we haven't been.
I think Mayock can get us to 500. I'd like to see if he can. I think he deserves a shot, unbridled. But again, like I said, we have stars in our defense. I mean, Max Crosby, star playmaker. Denzel Perryman, star playmaker of the highest order. I think Hobbs can be that guy. Morig, we didn't hear his name a lot, which for a safety is kind of good, kind of bad. Like he didn't make any crazy plays, but it was rare that he was responsible for a major fuck up, right? Mullen is solid, not a superstar, but certainly a starter. I think we have the base of star. I think, and they're all basically young, other than Perryman. Like we have young stars to build around on our defense, which is. I can't remember the last time I was able to say that.
We have a young star. One young star on our defense.
And Hobbs' potential, Morg's potential, Perryman's potential, regular age star.
I mean, look what happened with Jacobs. Jacobs was a breakout back his rookie year, and then he regressed the last couple of years. And he came on late this year, but has he ever reached that same? I mean, you can look at Max and say, this guy's a star. That's all we have. So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but I'm just trying to be honest with what we're looking at here. Guys that can be stars. Well, let's see. Like, are you a star yet? Okay, no, then you're not a star. You are or you aren't.
That's because we also have a bunch of rookies, so it's hard to be, hard to guarantee your
either you are or you aren't. The NFL doesn't care that you're playing rookies. Either you are or you aren't.
But for this conversation, Soto, it's like, oh, the defense is going to look different next season. We got to change everything up. It's like, no, there's a lot of guys that could be awesome, and that's what you want to do. You've been saying all day long: build through the draft, develop talent, turn them into stars and hits. Which is we've got the foundation to do that. Now they could not pan out. Certainly, Max Crosby can decline next season. I don't know.
Hell not, dude. That'd be so disappointing.
That would really suck.
God,
but my point being, we have a core group of guys where it's like, all right, we're definitely rolling with Morig and Hobbs and Mullen and Perryman and Crosby and Ngakoue. And certainly we're all in on these guys. Now it's a matter of them delivering. So defensively, I don't think we're as I didn't realize it till this conversation. I thought, oh man, our defense, we're gonna start all over. No, just tackles, just D tackles. Everyone else is like, huh.
And we'll get a couple of guys in here. We'll get a couple guys.
We'll improve. We'll definitely try to improve positions for sure. Right? We need some more rotational DNs. You can never have too much depth in DB.
when you have that's true. When you have this many big decisions, I mean, because we're in a very weird position right now. We're almost like the Rams that won the Super Bowl and then Dick Vermeil fucking quit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're a good team that is looking for a coach. You know, like that's why. Like,
we're also going to be we're going to be an attractive destination. Like, of all the teams, we're the only playoff team that's going to get a coach, right?
Well, yeah, because
we should have the pick of the litter. We should get whatever coach we want.
Yeah, and the thing is Bisaccia was the first head coach or the first interim coach to make it to the playoffs, because the head coach didn't get fired because your team sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's what happens. Usually you're out of the playoff hunt and then you get replaced by another guy, and you can go from there. But that wasn't the case with us. So I mean, look, we do have some talent on our team. Do we need more talent? Yes. Do we need more discipline? Yes. Do we need more accountability? Yes. Hopefully the new head coach and the new regime can bring that.
Yeah, nice drill sergeant head coach would be an interesting change of pace.
I mean, you don't have to be an asshole to be strict. You don't have to be an asshole to be a perfectionist. Like, you don't have to. It's how you present it. And I think Derek Carr is a perfectionist. I don't think he's an asshole to his teammates. I think his teammates respect him and they like him too at the same time, which is not always the case. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be that asshole to be a drill sergeant type. You just have to communicate what you're looking for, and like, you communicate what you expect and then you inspect what you expect. You don't have to be a dick to do that. You just have to be consistent.
Well, season's over, and it was a wild one.
Oh,
it was one where, like, it was a great season. It was our first full season doing this show, and it was a great season to do a show for. Like, if you
goddamn, you know what? Next year is going to be so boring because none of this shit's going to be going on.
If it was just like fired mid-season, right? It's like midway through this season, we're just breaking down film and like interviewing guys instead of just like, all right, this is who got a DUI this week. It's like, all right, here's the emails that got leaked this month,
bro.
That's why next season, it's so intriguing because you can't. It's so hard to gauge this team off of this season.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know what I'm saying? It's like how fast are you as a runner? It's like, well, I just sprinted on this track. There's no obstacles. Like, how fast are you as a runner? Well, I was jumping over potholes. I was dodging this pit bull. I had to jump over a chain link fence.
And I'm still alive.
I had to stiff arm this guy, and I got to the finish line. Well, how fast did you go? I ran a 9.7, but did you not hear me? All the things I overcome just to get here? Like, we don't know how fast this team is because of all the obstacles. Like, next season is gonna be crazy. Like, it's going to be not crazy. It's going to be boring, but it's going to be based off of a season where you can't replicate it. Like, you can't say, like, well, you did this last season, so you're going to do this season.
Dude, I think I remember saying that John Gruden may not be our coach next year, in the beginning of this year.
So you jinxed it. This is your fault. You're the one that released it.
I just remember that.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. All right. Season's over. Bengals 26, Raiders 19. And now comes the really interesting part following what happens with our head coach, with our GM.
Head coach, GM.
Maybe even quarterback. Obviously, we've got upgraded receiver. It's going to be interesting. And it's no longer, and again, we're pissed right now. And so we're thinking blow things up and the world's ending because we're pissed. But this is literally the best possible team without a coach. Like, this is a destination. Players are going to want to come here. Coaches are going to want to come here. Coordinators are going to want to come here, which is the first time in a long time. We can say it about the Raiders. And as pissed as we are, as sad as we are, there's a lot of reason for optimism this offseason. I'm looking at this offseason happily, optimistically, improving instead of filling in potholes, taking us to the next level instead of treading water. That's why I'm looking at it. And I think we deserve to look at it that way. All right. Soto, it's been a great season. I'll see you in the offseason.
Bud.
Until then, knock on wood if you're with me.